Good morning. I'm sorry I can't be here with you guys today, but I did create a video for you. Woohoo! First things first, go ahead and get started on your warm-up, and please freeze the video so that you have time to complete the warm-up. All right, hopefully you've had time to finish the warm-up and you wrote your answers down on a sheet of paper. If you didn't, then go ahead and get a sheet of paper out and quickly jot down your answers. Number 5 says the graph of this shows the speed of a cart over a period of several minutes. Let's first talk about what this cart is doing. So it starts off at a resting position at 0, 0, and it increases to about right here. And its speed is maybe 26 miles per hour. Then it decreases back down to 15 miles per hour over this period of time, and then it stays consistently at 15 miles per hour. This is a new type of question we haven't seen before, and so I'm hoping to increase the amount of these we see over time. The question says, at approximately what time did the speed of the cart begin to decrease? That is B, 3.5 minutes. All right, number 6 says the graph displays the distance traveled by a cart as a function of time in seconds. At which interval is the cart moving the fastest? We need to be looking for the point of time in which the slope of the graph is increasing at the greatest speed or the greatest rate. And so I know that it's not happening at BC or at DE because those two rates are slow because the slope of their line is flatter. So I'm looking for the steepest slope. So here I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 3. And then I have 1, 2, 3 over 2. And in fact, this is really like 1.3 repeating. And this is actually 1.5, so my correct answer is H. Between C and D, it is increasing at 1.5, whatever my distance is, per second. Okay, looking at number 10, Jay wants to rent a car. The company he will rent from uses this formula to determine rental cost, where C is the total cost in dollars and M represents the number of miles driven. Which statement, which is true given this information? It costs you $25.40 per day. That is incorrect, because then you would only get to drive 1 mile. I don't think you're going to rent a car to drive 1 mile. The 25 means there's an initial charge of $25, maybe. The 40 means there's an initial charge of $40. Well, this is 40 cents, and this is $40, so that doesn't even make sense. Or the 25 means that the charge for each mile is 25 cents. 25 is not our multiplier. Our multiplier is 0.4, so our correct answer is G. Keep your questions and concerns for when I get back in class. I am now going to give you your foldable for today, or actually I won't, but your fabulous classmates will. It is a half-sheet foldable that looks like this and says Investigating Intercepts on it. Looks like this right here. So I'm going to give you a minute to get those passed out. While I do that, or while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and get our Smartboard notebook open for today. If you need to, please pause the video so you can get everything passed out. If not, I'm ready to go on. In a function, an intercept is the point at which the line crosses an axis. If it crosses the y-axis, it is called the y-intercept. And the point is 0, y. So it's 0 and whatever that y value is. If it crosses the x-axis, it is called the x-intercept. And the point is x, 0. So we're going to look at these graphs and try and find our intercepts. Remember, your y-intercept crosses the y, and your x-intercept crosses the x. So I'm first going to just go ahead and put my dots on there so I know what I'm looking at. So our y-intercept here this graph is going to be, remember, 0, comma, y. And my y coordinate is at 2. My x-intercept, which follows the formula something 0, is going to be -1, 0, because we go back one slot there, 1 unit that direction. So let's look at our x and our y intercepts for this graph. I'm going to do my y-intercept first. So I am at, again, 0 something. And this looks like maybe -1.5. It's not quite to the 2. Maybe you want to say 1.75. I don't really care as long as you know that it's a negative in between 1 and 2. And our x-intercept, which follows, again, that formula of some number, comma, 0, is going to be 1, 2, 3, -3, 0. I'm going to rewrite over that just so that you can see it a little better. I'm not sure why I picked to use that green. It doesn't show up so great. Okay, study the graphs of the lines below. We're going to circle the x-intercept and write the coordinates of the x-intercept. Okay, then we're going to circle the y-intercept and write the coordinates of the y-intercept. Let's go ahead and look for our x-intercept right here. Where does it cross the x-axis? That's right, it doesn't. So we don't have an x-intercept. You can write that, which means there's not one, none available, or you can just cross it off. Now we're going to circle the y-intercept, which happens right there. And we're going to write the points, the coordinates. Remember that the coordinates are always 0, comma, y, which in this case would be 0, comma, 1, 2, 2. Now if we look at this other graph, which has a vertical line, oh, just real quickly, what's the slope of this line? Slope of that line. Anybody know? I'm hoping you just called out 0. The slope of that line is 0 because you're traveling, but as x goes each direction, your y moves up 0 amount. Okay, now we're going to circle the x-intercept, which we have one this time, and we're going to write the coordinate points, which our coordinate points are x, comma, 0. In this case, I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. And now it asks me to circle the y-intercept, which it never crosses the y, much like this never crossed the x. So we don't have one. There's not a coordinate, there's none available. The slope of this line would be undefined because I'm going up, my y's are going up 1, but I'm not going over for my x, so I would be dividing by 0. And we can't divide by 0. So we've talked about how that is undefined. Now we're going to look at finding the intercepts from a table. When you are looking at intercepts from a table, you are simply going to find your y-intercept, and that's where your x-coordinate is going to be 0. And if you're going to find your x-intercept, you're looking for where your y is 0. So we're going to go ahead and circle the x-intercepts in the tables below and write them as coordinates, and circle the y-intercepts in the table below and write them as coordinates also. Please pause the video so that you have time to do that now. We're using these tables right here. You're looking for your zeros. Remember that your x-intercept is x, comma, 0, and your y-intercept 0, comma, y. I see 2 0 points here. Now all I have to do is figure out which is my x-intercept and which is my y-intercept. My x-intercept happens when y is 0, so so I have negative 3, 0. And my y-intercept happens when my x is 0. So I'm crossing the y at 0, 3. Please pause, take time to do the next one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over my answers again here. I have 2 0 points. It's awesome. My x-intercept is going to be negative 2, 0, and my y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 2. I'll give you just a second to get caught up. I'd like you to use patterns to complete the tables and to find the intercepts. The first one I think is probably going to be much easier. The second one might be a little more difficult. Let's look at the first one together. You'll notice that my x is increasing by 1. And as my x increases by 1, my y decreases by 1. I'm going to circle my x-intercept. My x-intercept is where the y is 0. And I'm going to circle the y-intercept where my x is 0. The slope of this graph would be positive or negative. I hope you said negative, because as my x increases, my y value decreases. All right, let's look at the next table. To figure this out, I need to figure out my slope so I can see my rate of change. I'm going to very quickly solve my slope over here for these first two pairs. So I'm going to do negative 10 minus a negative 14 over a negative 1 minus a negative 3. Negative 10 plus 14 is 4. And a negative 1 plus 3 is 2. So my slope is 2. So for every 1 point, I go up on x, which my next point up 1 would be 0. My y is going to go up 2. So this should be negative 8. 10 plus 2 is negative 8. Then I go to point 1 and negative 6, 3 and negative 2. I'm going to assume that the point in between here is 4. And as this increases by 1, this increases by 2. If you increase negative 2 plus 2, you're going to get 0. Like how that chart worked out? It's pretty awesome. So now you need to decide the x and the y intercept. Please take a moment. And find those points. Hopefully that's what you came up with. Okay, so now you're going to work on your homework here in class. You are going to be working on this page right here. Solving inequalities, independent practice. You're going to solve each problem symbolically, verbally, and graphically. You may work together while you're in class. Please be careful and watch for some of the trickier ones. And we'll go over this tomorrow when I get back. Hope you had a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.